Hello everyone. I hope that you can see me and you can hear me. Hello guys, hello Frank, hello Nero, hello Smarts Guy. How are you? How's your Sunday going? Hello Trika. Hi Harsh. I'm doing fine, I'm doing okay. Yes, all is good. Wait, I can hear my voice, I'm sorry. I need to find and mute my video. Hello Frank on YouTube. So, how are you doing? How's your weekend? Mine is coming to an end. My long weekend is coming to an end. Yes, I decided to do kind of a study stream today because it seems like I wasted all my energy yesterday. And today I just, I just want to study a little bit and actually I decided to create arenas, Blitz Arena for everyone. So yeah, this is my plan for tonight. So tonight the stream is not going to be too long. I need to have early sleep in order to feel fresh tomorrow, back to work tomorrow. You already studied chess today. I didn't study chess today. Yeah, I did a couple of things, but I didn't have a proper study, so I decided that we can maybe watch some video together. Learn some opening lines in the Caro-Kann from black side. Back to work. Yes. Yeah, back to work tomorrow. And tomorrow already the 11th of November, 3 more weeks of November and winter is coming. Caro-Kann is a good opening, yes. Okay, so my plan is to study together with Niels Grandelius. So this is a course on the ChessMood website, and in this course, it's called GM Grandelius Games, or in GM Grandelius Mind. And in this course, he shows and analyzes his best games. I already watched 2 games. I watched these 2 videos in this course, and now the next game which he's going to show is his game against Ariane Tari. So and this is on the ChessMood website. Cozy Joe Live, hello, how are you? 2 more weeks until the World Chess Championship. Yes, only 2 weeks left. I'm very excited about it. Well, I don't know, it will be interesting because everyone will be following. Even they say that for someone it's not very interesting, but still I think that, you know, everyone of course will be following this championship match, and this should be interesting. I hope that the match will be good. So I have some cartoon music. All right, I better stop it. And yeah, so let's go, because well, this video is a little bit it's not too long, but it's not too short at the same time. 23 minutes video. But I enjoyed watching his videos. He explains some ideas in a very nice way. So let's do it. I think that we are going to learn, yeah, we are going, I guess, to learn from White's point of view, because he played this game with white pieces, and let's go. So let me make myself a bit smaller. Thank you very much for following. Welcome to my channel. Wait, Grandelius has a snow leopard hat right now. Okay, so let's go. Let's enjoy. All right. Так, you can see. Time to get the learning cap on. All right, so let me just check if the sound is okay. I will start the video right now. Please let me know if you can hear if you can hear him well.
To this game, which is between myself as white and a young Arjan Tari.
Not too quiet, not quite. Is it okay? The sound is fine?
So, for those of you who don't know Arjan Tari, he's a very strong Norwegian grandmaster, for many years Norwegian #2, rated above 2650. But when this game was played, it was in 2013, so he was still very young. Not as strong, of course, but of course an up-and-coming and dangerous junior. I started with the move 1e4, and he played the move c6.
Oh, we have D4, Caro-Kann, but from the white side.
And now I played e5, the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. Against the Caro-Kann I have played many different things throughout my career, but the advanced is definitely the most aggressive one, and also the one that I feel is most in accordance with my style. So now bishop to f5 is what Tari played, and here I have played a few different things. Actually, once in the Grand Swiss I played the move g4 against Vincent Keimer, another very promising junior. Although it's interesting, I think it's perhaps a little bit too aggressive from an objective point of view, but definitely an interesting move. The main line is knight f3, the so-called short variation, named after Nigel Short. But in this game I played the move h4, which is the move that I've played the most number of times. And here, the most frequent move by far is the move h5, which was played, is played by a lot of strong players, but it was played against me by the candidates.
I just want to say that there is a comment on my YouTube channel, and it says, "Is it that you're streaming a course? Now that's piracy." Yeah, well, I was I was thinking the same. But of course, I contacted ChessMood, and they said that no problem, you can stream. So they actually allowed me to stream their content. So it's all good, no problem. They allowed me to do that, and I don't do that often. So we're going to see just one game from that big course. At least tonight we are going to see just one game. There are in total 10 games in this course. In just one course, and they have a lot of courses on the website. So let's continue.
Participant Nijat Abbasov last year. I continued with c4 and actually won quite a convincing game. In my own career, especially during those years in 2013, 2014, even 2012, I played also against the move h6 quite a bit. I remember, for instance, 2 games against Jan Timman, the Dutch legend. Also a move that has gone out of fashion, but interesting to play for both. The best move, as mentioned, h5, but in this game Tari, being quite young, played a sideline with queen b6. Perhaps also he wanted to surprise me, because in those years I did actually teach Arjan. I was a bit like his trainer, at least we had some trainings together when he was young. And perhaps he wanted to surprise me a little bit in the opening, fearing my preparation. But queen b6 in itself is a little bit of a stupid move, I have to say, to be frank, because normally you should not really develop your queen too early. The idea is, well, that it's actually kind of a waiting move, because what black normally wants to do in the Caro-Kann, or normally wants to do in general here, is to play the move e6, and then continue with normal development, develop the knight maybe to e7, play c5 at some point, the bishop goes out. But if black plays it immediately, then g4, and the bishop has no squares. Bishop e4, f3, bishop g6, h5, the bishop is lost. So e6 is not possible. Black therefore plays queen b6 in order to wait a little bit and then try to play e6 when the bishop is no longer trapped. So not committing to either h6 or h5, which are the two main moves, saving the bishop. And here nowadays actually has been proven many good ways for white to play. There is, for instance, the move a4, intending a5 to kick the queen away, makes a lot of sense. Even the most aggressive move c4, very dangerous for black. D takes c4, knight a3, followed by knight takes c4, is let's say just giving white a nice initiative for free. But I played h5, and the logic here was that, okay, black is making a waiting move with queen b6, so I'm making a counter waiting move. Of course, if e6, it's the same as before, I still have g4 winning the bishop. So instead Arjan played h6, and now I played g4. And the idea is that, well, if the bishop goes back to d7, then the bishop is quite passive. Let's say something like maybe knight c3, e6, the bishop is inside the pawn chain, so much less active than if it's on this diagonal. Still probably what black should do, because Arjan instead went bishop to h7, and here I made a very typical and very strong strategic sacrifice, so try to find it.
What? What? Wait, I have a fly here, it disturbs me. What to find?
Still probably what black should do, because Arjan instead went bishop to h7, and here I made a very typical and very strong strategic sacrifice, so try to find it.
Strong strategic sacrifice by white? Come on. Maybe e6? e6 probably. Google, hello. I cannot find anything else. e6 or no, g5 is not a sacrifice, probably e6. Maybe e6 in order to play knight f3 and knight e5, something like this. Hello, Linux.
Because here I played the move e6. Very typical. And the point is simply to prevent e6. Now, if black doesn't do anything, then I take on f7 and the king has to move, so he took on e6, which is by far the most natural. And I simply followed up with bishop d3. And the point of the sacrifice is, well, that this bishop on f8 is no longer getting out, and also the pawn on e7 is completely in the way, so black's king is weak, the bishop is bad, and the extra pawn is completely useless, because you cannot really use, like, these two pawns on the e file, they never move, you cannot really use them for anything, and therefore it doesn't really matter that white is a pawn down. And this, there are some lines in which black gets quick counterplay, let's say with c5 or even with e5 maybe, in this type of positions. This is something that happened in my game against Keimer. But here black has wasted a move with the queen to b6, also the bishop has moved, so it's all a little bit slower than usual for black, and therefore there is not, I mean, this sort of quick counterplay does not exist, and I will be able to build up my initiative quite freely. So basically the move bishop to h7 is already, I think, quite a serious mistake. So if black wants to put the bishop on h7, at least play bishop e4 first, provoking f3, and then play the bishop to h7, because then at least this pawn on f3 is a bit in the way. Because here, in the game, after f takes e6, bishop d3, Now the knight is also able to develop to f3 and then to e5. So basically this is a typical sort of sacrifice, but the best of versions for white. So definitely I was very happy here. Knight f6 was played. Now I simply traded, rook takes h7. And here the only thing to keep in mind for white, or the most important thing, is to not let black castle long. Should not give black enough time for that. Therefore I played the move queen to d3, intending to give a check on g6, which actually cannot be prevented. So again, due to black having captured on e6, the structure is really very terrible. So yeah, it's already basically very tough, but deck is still a pawn up and there is no direct way through. So I mean, white is definitely not winning yet. I mean, the game still very much goes on, but at least the outcome of the opening has been in white's favor. That's very clear.
Now, when I look at this game, it's just just now I paid attention to year when this game was played. It was played 11 years ago, and Ariane Tari was only 2,263 rated player. Right. Well, it seems like black plays this opening not in the best way, and right now it's difficult to imagine Tari to play to play this way. But okay, he was only 2,200 rated player in this time. Hi, Lil Kev.
Here, what I would consider as black in such a position, and I'm sure my opponent did it too, is the move c5. Trying to get counterplay against the center as quickly as possible. Try to bring the knight to c6. And at least, I mean, yes, the king is still weak, but there's also some sort of counterplay. The downside is after, let's say, check, the king moves. White is also able to open up even further with d takes c5. And then moves like bishop e3, knight c3, even maybe long castle could come later. And it's very, very dangerous for black. But I still believe, especially from a practical sense, like you have to do something like this as black. I mean, you have to try to get some sort of counterplay and not let white build up completely freely. And yes, dangerous, but you know, black is also getting some play. Instead, knight bd7 was played by Tari. Check, king d8. Now I was able to simply develop. So again, we see if black had provoked this pawn to f3 earlier on, things would have been completely different. Much more difficult for white to get the pieces to the best squares. But here knight f3, it's all very, very harmonious, very nice. Tari played king to c8, just trying to get the king further away from the action. And now I played the move knight to c3. It's a natural developing move, but it also prepares quite a strong maneuver actually. So what is the maneuver I prepare by knight c3?
We have a question and we need to answer this question. What maneuver prepared by my knight c3? Knight a4, knight a4, knight c5. I don't see anything else. A4, c5. I just think what knight is it good to put knight on c5? Oh, there is actually knight e2 and knight f4 attacking pawn on e6. Maybe knight e2 and knight f4 looks a bit better, because on c5 c5 is protected by the knight on d7. Knight e2 and knight f4. Knight e2 and knight f4. Let's see.
And the maneuver I prepared with knight c3, apart from just developing, is actually the move knight e2 and then knight to f4. And my target is this pawn on e6. If I ever reach e6 with a knight, it will completely paralyze the black position, and I would be much I mean, even much better than the position now. Like, it would probably be just close to winning if my knight reaches e6. So that's a very, very strong strategic maneuver that black definitely should not allow. And here Tari finally tried to get some counterplay with c5, trying to eliminate the pawn on d4. And the reason why it's so important for black to eliminate this pawn on d4 is that once this pawn disappears, then black can consider to play e5. And after e5, finally play e6 and develop this bishop on f8. So that's really the key goal for black here, and that's what black is trying to do. And here there was an interesting way actually for me to try to prevent that, which I didn't play in the game, but I think I should have done. And that is actually to continue with knight e2. I did not want to do it because c takes d4, and now if I recapture, then black plays e5, and at least black is getting some sort of counterplay. But I underestimated the move bishop to f4 here. It's a very natural move in the sense that it prevents e5, now I can simply take. But it turns out that it's also very, very difficult for black to do anything else. Once e5 is prevented, well, I mean, black can take on b2, but actually I just castle short. Then black has opened up the b file for my potential attack. I will play rook b1 later. And also there is no way for black to defend the d4 pawn. So I will be able to recapture on d4, or to capture on d4 very soon.
Capture with the other knight possible. I think that now when bishop on f4, e5 is not possible, but when bishop on c1, it doesn't matter which knight takes on d4, e5 can be played anyway, because if this knight takes, then, well, there is knight on d7 that will be protecting pawn on e5, but with a bishop on f4, e5 is not possible.
And yeah, this would have actually been an even nicer way. I'm 2 pawns down now, but it doesn't matter at all, because as long as black is not getting e5, as long as black is not getting out, the compensation is simply phenomenal. And it's, I don't know if white is already winning, but it's at least very, very difficult to play black. And yeah, now just to mention quickly, this I'm mentioning quite casually that I can castle short. If you are not too experienced, you might think that it's quite dangerous to castle short with the pawns so far advanced, like there is no pawns to defend the white king. But again, it comes down to this, what I call attacking ratio, or not me, actually, this term was invented by Mikhail Tal, the former world champion. Basically, you have to count how many attackers versus how many defenders. And here you can see that after I castle short, I have, let's put them in yellow, I have the knight, 2 knights, 1 bishop, also the queen in defense, and black has, well, perhaps 1 knight on f6 to attack my king. So I have like 3-4 defenders, black has maybe 1 attacker, maximum 2. Therefore the attack is very, very unlikely to succeed, and therefore you can easily castle despite having the pawns advanced. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. But instead I took on c5, which is a natural move. Opening up further, it's also what I intended if black had played c5 earlier on, so it's definitely not bad. It's just this other idea with knight d2, bishop f4 would have been even stronger. Queen takes c5. Now I did play g5, which I think is quite an instructive mistake actually, and also it highlights a little bit some of my issues when I was younger, that I was a little bit impatient, a little bit too direct. I wanted to open up as much as possible in front of the black king, but in fact I'm also opening up for black's pieces. After h takes g5, bishop takes g5, yes, I'm active, I will be able to castle long and so on, things are nice, but this rook is now on the open file attacking the pawn on h5, the knight on f6. It's a bit more stable than before because the g-pawn is gone. And yes, I mean, I improved my position a little bit, but I also improved black's position much more, which is something that definitely should not have done. And it, I think, shows typically like a more, let's say, modern or more grown-up version of myself would probably just have played bishop e3, tried to put the bishop on d4, prevent black again from playing e5, and white would have had a very, very nice position, very nice compensation for the pawn. So, but g5, Too tempting for a young me to play, a 20-year-old me. So takes. Now black got to play d4, knight e2. Well, black could play e5 now, but then I will castle long and I will open up. So yes, it's a little bit of an achievement for black, but not the end of the world for me. I still have a nice initiative. So instead, Tari played queen d5, and here I actually had a nice idea that I missed during the game.
We probably need to find it,
or rather I underestimated, because here I could have taken on f6 immediately with the bishop.
Knight takes f6.
I mean, just first to mention, if I take on d4 with a knight, then black plays e5, and both knights are hanging and they are defending each other, so it's a bit of a problem. But if I take on f6 first, and black has to recapture with the knight, otherwise the rook is hanging, then after knight takes d4,
e5 and
e5,
queen f5.
I have this check on f5, hitting the king, but also I can collect the pawn on e5 on the next move, so I will be actually even a pawn up and still keep a dominating position. But the reason I didn't play bishop takes f6 in the game was queen takes f3, now hitting the rook and hitting the bishop. But it turns out that after the move long castle, very strong move, protecting h1, knight takes f6, knight takes d4, then my attack is very, very strong. Queen f4 check, king b1. Yes, black's piece up, a full bishop up, but knight takes e6 is a threat, followed by rook d8 mate. I can also activate the last rook with rook h1 should I need to, and there is simply no way for black to defend against this, especially knight takes a6. There is no good way, and therefore it doesn't matter at all that black is a piece up. Also, if we look at the bishop on f8, which is the extra piece, I think it's quite clear that it doesn't matter too much. I mean, this is not the most active bishop we have ever seen. It's, in fact, a completely terrible bishop, one of the worst. And it doesn't do anything in regards to the defense of the king. So this would have been very, very strong. But instead I played another natural move, rook h3, defending the knight and also stepping out of the attack on my rook. But Tari, I mean, he played quite well despite being so young this phase. He played e5, defending the d4 pawn, trying to open up, long castle. And now another quite nice move from Tari was the move queen to e4, threatening to trade queens, which would of course ease up a lot of the pressure, makes my attack less dangerous. But
and
here
knight is
I had
hanging
a
on
nice
d2.
attacking idea planned.
Thank you for
which
following.
was why I wanted to play rook h3. I had a nice way to make use of this rook move. So how do you think I continued my attack?
How white continued the attack? Knight is hanging on e2. Not a single good idea how to continue attack and not trade queens. Queen f7. Knight is hanging on e2. What if bishop takes f6? No, wait, takes. No, I think this move is not possible. Okay, let's find out.
And the way I did it was to take knight f takes d4.
Wow. What if queen takes g6?
He takes d4, knight takes d4. So I'm giving up a full piece. But why do I do that? Because I want to play rook c3 check. Then I want, depending on what black does, but for instance, this same idea of knight e6 followed by rook d8 if allowed, depending on what happens with the black knights. Also, mainly that the black king is not really able to escape, which we will see quite clearly in the game. So, for instance, if black had taken on g6,
there is this nice rook c3 check.
Rook c3 check, king b8. I actually have time to recapture. the rook has to move. There are not that many good squares, so let's say rook h8. And here there are a few different ways to do it, but my intention was the simplest, knight e6, threatening actually checkmate on f4 on the next move, but also threatening just bishop takes f6, and then when the knight recaptures, to play rook d8 check. And I like this position because well, with the queen still on the board, it's quite logical that white has a very strong attack. But what I like here is that even without queens, the attack is still as strong, and it just goes to show just how big of a problem it can be to have such a bishop on f8. Like, if we remove the pawn on e7 from the board, then black would maybe be able to defend. Maybe, perhaps not here, but a few moves earlier, for sure, black would have been able to defend. But just due to these two pawns on e7 and g7, the bishop being dead on f8, black cannot really defend himself here. It's like I'm simply attacking with all my pieces, and black's pieces are doing nothing to help the defense of the king. So I like this quite a lot. But there was actually one move here for black to try to defend, which is quite difficult to see. I don't think I saw it during the game, but there is a way for black to get an extra square for the king, an escape square, which will be quite hard for me to attack. And that is
a6,
the surprising but very, very strong, or actually only move for black, b6.
b6.
And the idea is simply to get a square on b7 for the king. So rook c3 check, king b7. And now it's quite hard to give mate. It's hard to attack the light squares, basically, because I have a bishop on the dark square. That's the main issue for me here. I mean, there is still some attack. The bishop on f8 is still out of the game. I can play, for instance, bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, queen g3, threatening something on c7, leave e5. I can play knight e6, still threatening rook c7, the f8 bishop somewhat hanging. But black is a lot more active here than before, and it's really, really not very clear at all. So, I think actually anything could happen here. I don't think white is really risking too much, but on the other hand, black has decent chances to survive. Like, I also have some threat with knight g5, attacking the rook, but then queen f4 check, trades queen. So, I mean, very hard to say what's going on, but definitely not a very clear situation at all. But it was simply imperative for black to play b6. It's definitely the only move. Instead, Aryan played knight e5, trying to force the issue. But then I had a funny idea. Rook c3 check, king b8. Now my queen is hanging, but can you see the best way for white to attack?
Okay. Find a way to attack. White to play. By the way, do you know how it is easier to how we should solve puzzles? It's better to start with checks to check if